Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Right, Left, Up, Down podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Allen, and who are our co-hosts today?
My name's Anishka Pandey. I am the president of the College Democrats here at IU.
And I am Dylan Burns. I am the president of the College Republicans at IU.
All right, and today we have a shout-out for a different podcast in our neighboring studio because they shouted us out. Dylan, what is their podcast?
The podcast that has neighbored our booth all semester long. Seems like some great people. They are the fantastic individuals behind the Inside the Playbook podcast. You can find them on YouTube, and they are about sports and sports film analysis. They're a bunch of great guys. Highly recommend you go check them out.
Yes, and we will be checking to see if they shouted us out properly.
We will.
Yeah, we will. And
we will be editing this out.
Right, so if you're hearing this, that means they returned the favor and we're doing it.
Yes.
Yes. All right, so later today we're going to have a guest, futurist and science fiction author John Michael Gaudier. Surprisingly, we got him on the show. If any of you have ever heard of him, he's very interesting. He's written some novels, and I'll let him introduce himself later on. Had either of you ever heard of him before today?
I have not.
I don't know if the name sounded familiar or if I'm making that up, but I'm not familiar with his work.
I am. Okay. I will say I'm a huge reader. I'm an avid reader. I read a lot of fiction, but it's mostly historical fiction. I don't really read a lot of science fiction, or at least historically haven't. I've read Dune, great book series, and actually took a science fiction class last spring, which I cannot recommend enough. We read a bunch of great novels, and I loved it, but I'm just not super well versed in the authors of that area.
Fair enough. There's a joke somewhere to be made about the Republican reading about the past, but no, but I have not read as much these days, I'll be honest, but I am a big dystopian science fiction kind of girl.
I'm in a fantasy football league, and I'm in a lot of fantasy football leagues this year. And one of the fantasy football leagues is, I think it's a 14-person league, which is crazy. And we're all Republicans in this fantasy league. And so when we were figuring out what our fantasy punishment would be, going back to the book reading thing is how I'm going to tie this all together. We jokingly said that the loser would have to read Kamala Harris's book that she just released. 107 days. That was the punishment you had to read and present on it.
That's funny.
You should compete against a Democratic one, and their punishment is to read The Art of the Deal.
The Art of the Deal? Oh, that's actually a pretty good idea.
That is a good idea.
Okay, I'm going to steal that for next football
next
season.
Year, yeah.
You can have it. It's my gift to you.
We're going to organize a CRs versus CDs.
That'd be so funny.
Fantasy league.
I fear we would have a disadvantage. Not to stereotype too much. I fear we would have a disadvantage. I'm also outgoing. Technically, I have about 3 weeks left in my term.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to hit on a couple things.
Oh, you're a lame duck?
I'm a lame duck. We had our elections yesterday.
Who are the...
No, I didn't run.
Okay.
Wait, let's be really clear here.
So you stepped aside
I'm stepping
gracefully.
aside because I'm not going to be in Bloomington next semester.
Okay.
So I stepped aside. It was a great election.
Peaceful transition.
We do that in the Democratic Party.
As we do in the Republican Party. So
if you imagine it a small scale January 6th, here at IU with
I'm not gonna. There was jokes made because a couple times was because I was the one counting the votes since I had no stake, and I was saying wow, I can't believe nobody voted for me. This is messed up. We should do something about it.
Anyway, so our first topic of the day will be on political correctness, which is another fun one. Our second topic, or it's going to be kind of a combination of topics, we're going to be talking about the interstellar comet 3iATLAS, and we're also going to be talking about AI to make up for last time. Which they kind of fit really perfectly, and our guest has written extensively about AI and also 3iATLAS, so it works out quite well. So let's start with political correctness. Who has thoughts on this?
Why do I always have to start?
Ladies first.
Ladies first. Wow, right. How patriarchal of you.
No, that's not
That's a joke.
That's
that
called
is not
chivalry.
very politically correct.
Yeah.
Chivalry is what that is.
Heard that one's dead.
I'm trying to bring it back.
Single-handedly, by the way. Dylan Burns gonna bring it back.
Gonna try.
All right. Political. I mean, I don't know where to start on this because I think I'm the one who's in defense of political correctness. I guess by circumstance.
I'll
by default,
yeah.
for some background as to why I decided to change this one to today's is because last time Dylan did kind of take a beating, and this is one where I quite firmly fall on the right side of the argument. As far
The right, as in not the left, not.
As in the correct side.
Nope, that's not what he meant. All right, here's my take on political correctness. I think that, as all things in the internet/pop culture era, it goes too far many a time. I will admit it. I think that as a Democrat who has views that, will traditionally fall into the quote-unquote politically correct side of things in everyday conversation, I often, whether that be in campaign situations or more commonly when I'm talking with friends or people who are outside the political sphere, I am the first one to say, don't worry about choosing the correct words. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're feeling. We'll figure it out from there. For the sake of this conversation, I'm going to assume you have the best interests. Because I think a lot of the times the correct verbiage is a barrier to genuine conversation. And in the way that I approach politics, especially if I'm talking to people that aren't as engaged in it, I don't want any barrier to exist. So I recognize that that's a big issue with political correctness. That being said, I think that it is often... I think that a lot of complaints I hear against political correctness are people looking for an excuse to just be, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, an a-hole. I've seen that a lot, where, gosh, I don't even have a good example off the top of my head. Let's do this. Let's do the alien versus immigrant conversation for a second. There was times, recently, actually actively, where the term alien was used, not in the legal description of the word, but as a way of undermining people that are coming into the United States. Yes, I recognize that's a legal term, but we can, use connotations here. Things like that, when people say, oh, I don't need to call them an immigrant or undocumented or whatever the term is, they're just looking to call someone an alien instead of a human. That's an example that came to mind. I think in situations like that, when you're going after political correctness for the sake of saying whatever you want about people, I mean, that's a ridiculous reason to be against something, I think. That being said, no, actually, just, along those same lines, political correctness is important because of the humanizing aspect, as a general statement. And I think that this is something that has existed for a long time, well before the social media age, well before the current moment, well before the last however many decades. Examples that come to mind are the definition of the word barbarian.
I was ready to say that.
Yeah. Anybody that is not me must be uncivilized. You see this a lot in the colonial eras, but even before that, and as a general statement throughout history. And as an Indian person who was often the barbarian in many of these Western texts, for example, I think that political correctness is important because it recognizes that other must not be worse and that other is still human, is where I'm going to close my opening thoughts.
I just want to say really quick, do you know the history of the term barbarian?
I do, actually.
Really fascinating.
Yeah.
From its inception,
Ancient Greek, right?
Yeah, it originated as a racist or an anti-immigrant slur.
Yep.
Because it was either Greek or Rome,
Greek,
I forget, but
I took a class on ancient Greek culture.
Yeah, but they couldn't understand the language of the new people that were coming in, and it sounded like they were just saying bar, and they called them barbarians.
Oh.
But it was just a different language.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where that comes from. It's a mockery of a different language, which is that's always fascinated me, the origin of that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Which, if anybody's ever seen Team America World Police, it's very reminiscent. Neither of you have seen
You just said words. That wasn't a thing.
I keep forgetting how old I am. But there is, in Team America World Police, they caricature Arab people. And anytime the Arab people are talking in the movie, they're just saying durka, durka, durka.
Right. So, that's not...
But it's the same thing with the bar.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'll let either of you take over from there.
I'll let you go, Darren.
Darren. Ooh.
Dylan.
Darren.
Take that one out.
Dylan.
That's awkward.
I will again preface by saying that as a individual, I try my best to accommodate or respect whatever, use the correct words, pronouns, whatever with any individual that I'm discussing that I don't want to, that I guess wouldn't go by the quote unquote default, if I don't know if default's the right word, but for lack of a better word than I can think of. So, and I have no issue with that in itself. Like, that while I might scratch my head a little bit and don't completely, I guess, understand or whatever an individual in that way, like everybody's a person. So I try and think of that. I think the problem with political correctness is I feel like it's mandating politeness. And I am all for politeness and respect, but the drawback to a First Amendment in a free society is somebody has the right to be mean. And I know that you said a little bit ago that people will try and use that, political correctness, blah, 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 as an excuse to be mean and to stereotype. And I think that does happen sometimes, and I think that is an unfortunate thing, but there has to be trade-offs. And to be mandating or forcing or requiring an individual to be speaking in a certain way, I think, is way, way too much. It's just an overreach, quite frankly. And I guess the other thing is, when we're talking about political correctness, do we want to delve into, like, I say political correctness, but like fixing stuff from the past? Because like something that pops into my head is like Dr. Seuss getting pulled out of like libraries and stuff.
Are you anti-book banning?
I am. I do not believe in banning books.
Okay,
no.
Sorry. I try to throw a jab in every time I can, because you're talking. This is a very serious conversation, and I just
No,
I will say I wouldn't consider myself a Dr. Seuss defender as it is. However, I do have the same birthday as Dr. Seuss, and so he has a special place in my heart.
There you go.
Yeah. March 2nd, baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
okay. Did you have something, or can I respond to it?
Go ahead and respond.
Okay. Again, at the, like, I say this jokingly, but I am a little bit making a point. The reason, if you saw me sit up very straight in my chair while you were talking, is because the mandating how people can talk and act is an interesting, I think an interesting understanding of what this is. Because on the one hand, I would argue that conversations about immigration that revolve entirely about assimilation are doing exactly that. To your point of we shouldn't regulate how people talk. But I think the other thing is that you're differentiating societal and governmental. Nobody is forcing anybody to talk a certain way. Nobody is legislating or governing or mandating how people talk. It is simply an evolution of society that says, no, we as a minority, we as an outsider, we as fill in the blank, refuse to be beneath, I think. At least in the context of the examples that we've brought up so far. I think immigration is a very fair way of doing that. We as an immigrant deserve respect. And I think in the same way that I brought up the barbarian example, this is an ongoing trend. I think political correctness is treated as a new thing when it's really just changing according to how society has changed. You're not going to go around using... I don't know if I want to use this example necessarily. So I'm trying to think of... Okay, let's do this. I thought of a safer one. But I'm Indian. I'm Asian Indian. I'm, from the subcontinent of India. I'm not Native American. Native American might be seen as a politically correct term, but really what it is it's a better use of vocabulary to appropriately identify a group of people. By the way, I want to say that from natives that I've met and interacted with and heard from, I know some people prefer Native American, some people prefer First Nations, etc. This is a political correctness argument. I recognize that it is a matter of preference. As a general statement, I've heard that Native American is fair if you're not talking about any specific group, so we're going to go ahead and do that. But this is what I mean, right? Where the very evolution of calling somebody like me Indian and someone who is a Native American is technically political correctness and could be described as such, but it really is just a natural evolution because there was more Indian Americans coming into this country, and a distinction was being made because Indian, in the way that Christopher Columbus used it, was an inaccurate statement. Technically political correctness, but I don't think anybody in this room has a problem with that necessarily.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I would say to that in terms of like mandating. It's not that. It's societal. It's the same way societal as anything else. And I think by nature of people change and evolve and grow, especially as we're going into like the globalized world, I don't know why we expect society to not change. And that includes language.
I mean,
I can see Dylan coiled and ready to strike.
I think those are both very fair arguments, along with the statement of, society changes and evolves as the times do. And I guess when I'm thinking about mandating, I don't know if I see governmental mandating taking place in America necessarily, but I have several examples of that, I think, taking place in Canada and the United Kingdom. And as we become a more globalized society, I'm very weary of those types of laws or policies making their way into America. And then at the same time, continuing to, I guess, in talking about, I guess, more specifically to America than in terms of mandating. Maybe it's not governmental mandating, but a societal mandate, I think, is, well, not the same as a governmental mandate. It can be as destructive, could maybe be the right word, to individuals who don't, quote unquote, fall in line. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm all for us hopefully coming to a place as a society one day where we don't even have to discuss political correctness, but in the meantime, people shouldn't be... I've got this tangled around something. People shouldn't be attacked or lose a job, whatever, because they weren't being politically correct. And if I can provide an example, like something that I think of a lot, it's this case that happened in the UK, and I've kind of got some notes on it because I wanted to come slightly prepared this time. And basically what happened was this dude taught his girlfriend's dog how to do a Nazi salute, which...
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know...
Count Dankula.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And...
Do people not have better ways to spend their time? My goodness.
I will say, I would be curious to see what that's like. Just, like, I have 2 dogs. I don't see them being able to raise either of their arms high enough to do that. He was charged under the Communications Act of 2003 in the United Kingdom for sending, quote, grossly offensive, unquote, online content. So he was convicted of committing a crime of sending grossly offensive content online. And while I agree that that's not cool in the slightest and is, can perpetuate hate and anti-Semitism, especially from that time, the fact that something like that is illegal in the United Kingdom, that scares me because I see that as such an overreach of the government. If a law like that were to be in place in the United States, I'm sure 30% of all the content on YouTube would have to get cut for some reason or another for being grossly offensive, however you want to define such a broad term. And so I see it as something that's very concerning because you look at like the United Kingdom where they have a law like that. You look at Canada where they have similar laws in place. There's nothing like that in the United States, but we're seeing this societal push, as you're kind of saying, of trying to be more politically correct. And I fear that will eventually lead to some sort of governmental mandate.
All right, here's my thoughts on this. First of all, the idea you mentioned this a minute ago, and I want to bring it back up, that you said people who have not fallen in line are getting harmed. On that, I did not think I would get, I don't think I would, be as emotionally involved in this episode. And I think it's just kind of the day I'm having, but I'm gonna be very honest with you. I don't think it's fair that some people can feel left out because they don't want to adapt, whereas other people can continue to be marginalized because people are comfortable the way things are. So let's say, we'll do the stereotype of 80-year-old grandpa from the South still goes around, saying, not slurs, sure, let's draw a line a little bit before that, saying derogatory comments about, black people because that's the way that he was raised. That's how he's comfortable. That's how it used to be before all this woke nonsense came in. I don't think that man's discomfort is equivalent to black people who have continually been harmed by the narrative that they are less than. That's an extreme example, but I think it's very relevant, especially when we're talking about immigration. Because it's very easy to say, oh, it's just one person talking, but when it's now an entire administration who is treating, for example, all Mexicans as drug dealers, all illegal immigrants as criminals, as rapists, I think that on a net balance type of thing, I'm okay with some people being a little uncomfortable because they have to change their language. That is a lesser harm. Beyond that, the thing about the laws, I found it really interesting. Obviously, at this point in 2025, we are, what's the math here? 80 years removed from the Holocaust? Give or take? Yeah. I'll admit that this is from some YouTube videos because I found it interesting. I've learned a little bit about how Germany, quote unquote, denazified post World War II and how it seemed like overnight, give or take, Germany was no longer Nazi and it was the worst thing that had ever happened. If you've seen now, there's always videos that pop up of American tourists going to Germany and making a bad joke about Hitler or the Nazi regime, and people there, locals, respond immediately, and that is not an okay joke to make. And the reason for that is because propaganda and the language we use makes an impact. Hitler did not, and I'm not equating this to what's going on right now, but Hitler did not come out of nowhere. It was the continued usage of Jewish people as scapegoats, as non-Aryan race people, as less than, as harmful to society, as not human. It was that language, that simple, that's how we grew up talking, that perpetuates into things that makes them legally scapegoats, that makes people like Hitler come into power. That's a slippery slope, and I recognize that that's not quite the conversation we're having right now.
It's a million little things that add up to an avalanche in the end.
And so yeah, I think it's okay for a law in the UK to say, no, we're not going to normalize jokes about the Nazi salute, because that's how it happened last time. I don't think that I'm uncomfortable with, and like, with every constitutional right, with every, right that we have as humans, there have to be restrictions. I don't think anybody's going to say anything against that. I understand the free speech thing. Believe me, I do, given how much, the pro-Palestine protests that happened, the last couple years were immediately labeled as anti-Semitism on the opposite side of this exact same spectrum, right? And that's scary to me, too. I'm with you that conversations and how people speak shouldn't automatically mean they have one ideology or another. I think it's dangerous for a government to be able to fully regulate that. I understand. I'm with you. But when it's something that, something is simple, I say simple because it used to not be divisive at all. Nazism? The thing that happened recently with, I think it was the Navy saying that the swastika isn't a hate symbol anymore. It's offensive instead. There was a change in classification that was made that I was seeing. That's dangerous. If we can't agree that the Nazi symbol is inherently offensive and dangerous to Jewish people and Americans as a whole, to democracy, to freedom as a whole, that's the end. That's the end of what political correctness can be. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to back up a little bit and be like, okay, political correctness, it's okay if somebody calls somebody else, I'm going to say this, in my opinion, and illegal instead of undocumented, or homeless instead of unhoused. I understand that how those things are very minute and in the moment can be seen as just a pain or a struggle or not worth the effort. But I think on the broader scale, if we zoom out, there has to be a line somewhere. And for the same effect that we're not counting Jewish people as scapegoats anymore, there has to be change in how we speak and how society evolves. I'm gonna get off my soapbox now.
You're good.
So we should at least draw the line at Nazi.
Right. In my opinion.
At the very
right.
And I remember when I was in high school, middle school, it was never questioned that the Nazis were terrible. Everything was, it was just bad. And now these days we get schools being forced to teach Nazism from both angles, which is
crazy.
Brought to you by
how do you do that? How do you do
the
that?
Indiana State House, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
No. Who was the one? I don't know. I don't remember the names.
Are you writing things you want out of the book?
Yeah.
No.
No. Not that I want cut out. I want to take notes so that I'm better able to talk on specific points. And I've been wanting to grab that notebook and start jotting down, but I was like, that's the swear book, so I'm just gonna grab
for
my
those
own.
listening. We do have a swear book for if and when we accidentally say, use some language we shouldn't, just so we can cut it out of the future edit. But
Yes.
That's the swear book being referenced.
And so
You want me to go on my spiel so
yeah,
both of you can think
please
of
go on your spiel, because then I will.
The first thing I'm going to bring up is, are either of you aware of the existence of a comedian named George Carlin?
Yes.
Aware of, not familiar with
I've
the
seen some of his stuff.
Okay, good.
Quite funny.
All right. Are any of you aware of some of the things he says, some of his pieces on specifically political correctness and what he calls soft language?
No.
I've seen some of his routines, and I feel like that stuff's kind of in there.
Since we cannot play this for copyright reasons on the podcast, I'm going to pause for just a minute, go on YouTube or wherever you can find a video and look up George Carlin Shell Shock, watch what he has to say about it, and come back. So with that in mind, I'm going to relate that same sort of logic to... Well, first of all, let me say this, okay? When I think of political correctness, I think of it as two very separate phenomena that we've kind of touched on a little bit here. The first one is direct language referring to a person's identity as who they are, which would include racial slurs, cultural slurs. We all know what that is, changing the way you refer to a person directly. That's one thing. I agree with that. The other branch of political correctness that has evolved over the past 10, 15 years which I really do not agree with, is the kind of thing that leads us from homelessness to person experiencing homelessness to person experiencing houselessness to houseless individual to I don't even know what the current term is.
Isn't that still referring to a person?
It is still referring to a person.
I'm just trying to understand where you draw the line.
Where I'm going at with that is there's a difference between what a person is at their core, such as their race, gender, sexual orientation, anything like that, versus a condition that they are experiencing, which would be homelessness. Like, you don't say that somebody is homeless.
Unless you're someone who believes that sexuality is something you're just going through.
Well, that's a whole other debate.
I don't think it is.
You don't think?
I don't think it is. I think the change of calling someone queer to say that they were strange and non-normal to, calling it sexuality instead of confusion or whatever that may be. I think this is all in a related debate. And I understand why at this moment in time we separate those things. But I think if you, again, I'm standing on the thing that political correctness is not new.
Yeah, it's been around for a while.
I think that is within the same conversation.
Okay, so...
But for you can continue your point. I understand what you're saying.
I want to continue my thing with the homelessness thing. So, like, as I was saying, like, somebody, like, it's not an integral part. It's not something that you're not born homeless. Like, it's not a condition. It's not a ingrained condition. It's something that happens to someone. Like, you're not homeless. You are homeless. And I am getting really, like, I'm gonna say, like, I'm getting tired of it. But, like, it hurts me to see that, like, so much of the debate has gone away from solving the issue of homelessness to how to refer to the people.
Oh, I agree with you there. That one I completely agree with you on.
And, like, some of the debate, and this has leaked into a lot of things, like debates I have heard happen, debates I have had with people on, like, the problem of homelessness. Like, I try to help people who are experiencing homelessness. And let me say this, okay? The person first language thing, are either of you aware of this?
Yeah.
Person first language, I agree with that, okay? So instead of saying a homeless person, it is a person who is homeless, all right? When you get to, like, person experiencing homeless, I think you're getting into, like, a little bit of a virtue signal territory. You're just using flowery language and stuff, but you don't have to get super fancy with it. You can just say a person who's homeless instead of saying a homeless person. Do you disagree with that?
No. I want to go back to what I started with saying, which is that, like, for the sake of productive conversations, I don't care what you say.
Yes.
So I stand by that as well. Where, like, if it's between choosing the word and finding a solution, find the solution, right? For the sake of opening up conversations, absolutely. But I think that's different than how we generally refer to people, how we talk about people, etc.
And if I may, I like how you distinguished the, I guess, two different main ways political correctness is going. Remind me the specific words that you said, because you talked about you have political correctness that's related to, like, an individual's.
I know there is a blur between that. Like, as you said, like, there are things that some people believe are choices, and that's a huge debate with that. But, like, I don't think it's anyone could ever debate that, like, something like homelessness is something that somebody's born as. Like, that's, I think that's...
No, I get the point.
Like, I understand that the debate would be similar, but it's in a totally different category.
Correct.
Yeah, sure.
And so it's like the two branches of political correctness that I've seen is the one that directs to the one basically the one that deals with slurs and the one that deals with external conditions. If that makes sense. Or is that a horrible way to put that?
No, I think that's...
I get the point you're making.
Yeah.
So, kind of sticking with those differentiations, and I guess starting with external conditions, and maybe we can have a bit of a discussion on that, and then if we wanted to have a discussion on the more person aspect of political correctness, we can as well. Something that you've kind of hammered on a couple times is, immigration. And like, if you are an undocumented person in this country, you are here illegally, like by the definition of the law. So I can understand why somebody might not like that, but that is a factually correct statement. And for us to be saying that we can't use a factually correct statement, or that we shouldn't be using a factually correct statement to describe somebody, I think is an overstep on either the government's part for trying to say you can't do that, or on society's part for trying to say you shouldn't do that.
I believe the defining line there, I believe, is saying, like, while literally correct to call someone an illegal immigrant if they are here illegally, like, to use that term, because that term really has, I wouldn't say it's totally a slur, but it's got the slur feel. Like, it has the function of using a slur against somebody, because you're somebody who, like, for example, somebody who sneaks over the border purposely to come and inject drugs into, like, doing all the things that Trump says that people are doing, to put them in the exact same category with that term as somebody who's fleeing oppression from somewhere else, who's planning on doing nothing, like, aside from them coming here illegally, has no other illegal plans.
Which is not a felony.
Yeah. Like, I think it's...
I think...
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
no, I see what... I think...
Using that term is lumping them together, even if it's unintentional.
Right. And, like, just to the point of, like, acknowledging that distinction, for... It'd be one thing to say there's an issue with illegal immigration in this country, and another to say, oh, those illegals are ruining the country. I think that distinction is important, because that then illegal, calling somebody illegal, becomes the personification. I think that's the distinction I would make there, which is I believe what the point you were trying to make is. Because there's significantly worse connotations to illegal.
Yes. It's like, even though the word, even though a word is literally correct, the way it's not the word, it's the way it's used.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that makes sense.
No, I can see that argument. I guess I would counter by saying if we try hard enough as a society, we can make any word a negative word, or a slur, or a slur adjacent word. And so again, I
feel like to make that happen, you would have to, like, the word spoon. I could make that a slur, but to do that, I would have to associate that with a specific group of people that I wanted to call that. Make it like it would take time and effort, and it would take a lot of people to agree that that's a slur for them. Like, you can make anything a slur, but it takes work. And
yeah.
It takes...
And creating a slur for someone inherently means that you're creating, like, the history behind it. Whereas certain slurs are slurs because of the way that they have been used significantly. You know what I mean? Like, the N-word is the N-word because it was used as an inherently discriminatory way to refer to a black person. Right? That's different than us saying, that's a bad word. We shouldn't use that. It's like trying to equate the N-word to boomer. Do you see that difference? I know you do. I'm not.
Yeah,
that's an unfair, but okay. All that being said, I think that I maybe agreed more on your point of, like, factual correctness than Spencer did. He took the battle for me. I understand, right? And I also don't want to completely discount that change happens whether or not people are ready for it. And that there are a lot of people, myself included in a lot of ways. All of us, I think, have experienced this, where a change is happening, especially with the way that society moves, faster than we are ready for it, and without us thinking that change is necessary. I just think that on the aggregate, it's a net positive for that change to occur. Though I do sympathize with the feelings that it's not always necessary, especially if you're not confronted with the situation.
And while I can acknowledge that making a societal change can often be for a net positive. And my problem is, like, sitting here saying this, I kind of feel like a little bit of the bad guy, and that I'm kind of playing into this a little bit.
Oh, no.
Because here's the thing, like, truthfully,
I'm not done with my spiel yet.
No,
Like,
and
I'm
also
still plenty the bad guy.
we're having
good.
the conversation for a reason.
Yeah,
and I think it's a fair, because I think, and I say this as someone who has mostly Democratic friends, mostly, people who agree with not everybody, even who I interact with, who I grew up with, I come from an immigrant community. Like, there's a lot of, I'll let everyone fill in the blank there on how politically correct Indian people tend to be. You can laugh. It's true. I'm making the joke. There's like comedians. Anyway, that's a different tangent.
Every group has another group that they're
Yeah.
sometimes antagonistic
Yeah,
against.
yeah, and like I'll admit that as someone coming from an immigrant community.
And with that
I
said,
know
there's a
that-
difference between banter and hate speech.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. That being said, like I just want to acknowledge that a lot of people who have the same political beliefs as me aren't going to change their language overnight, nor will they feel a need to. So I don't think that makes you a bad guy. I just think that like diving into the actual meanings of political correctness and the way that we do things as a society is creating this division and making us on very opposite sides when I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Let me continue. Like, the reason I think, Dylan, you are feeling this tension, let me continue my little spiel here. So going back to the homelessness thing, and the reason, like, I have helped within homeless communities. I have friends who help a lot with the homeless community, and the homeless community itself is fine with the term homeless. Let me say that, okay? The people who want to go with the whole, like, houseless or, like, all this other kind of things are people who are very notably not homeless.
Oh, this is a fun point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Okay, like, within a community, like I'm saying that not all communities are the same, but within the community of people that I have socialized with quite a bit, interacted with quite a bit, who are within the homeless community and helping the homeless community, the whole like houselessness versus homelessness versus person experiencing houselessness, unhoused thing, it's a bunch of rich white people
Yeah, there's white knighting happening.
who want to feel like they're helping without actually helping by correcting people on terms and stuff like that, if that makes
So
sense.
that they can be the correct. Yeah.
So that they can be
absolutely.
it's textbook virtue signaling. And I know
Oh,
that
absolutely. Yeah.
that's where I'm going, okay? And the way that society has gone with the terms of political correctness, lumping these two different branches that I've mentioned of political correctness together, it's hard to debate and criticize that type of political correctness without it seeming like you're also on the side of like racial slurs and stuff, because that's also lumped into the same concept. And I feel like, Dylan, that's what a lot of people on the right struggle with, is debating this one branch while not saying, like, I'm not saying we should say all these different slurs and stuff.
Some of them are. I'm not saying Dylan is.
some.
I'm absolutely not saying
Not
Dylan
Dylan.
is. Yeah, but
Some are. And
I think
just-
that correlation has been created on both sides. Is all I'm gonna say.
yeah, and that's I'm getting there.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
And like a lot of this, and like just to go with like the whole houselessness thing, like how far away are we from just saying that even that is incorrect? Like, let's just call them involuntary outdoors enthusiasts. Because
That's a good one. I like that one.
Because the condition of being homeless is a bad thing. It is something that needs to be fixed, and like the best way to refer to a bad thing is with a bad word. So if there are negative connotations with the term homeless, good. That's the point.
Fair enough.
That is the point. Like, that's where I'm going with that. Okay, because it's a bad thing to be, and you want to fix that, and like all these different debates. And it's even bleeding into like where I was going earlier, but I kind of trailed off. It's bleeding into even the discussion on how to help with the homelessness issue.
Yep.
Because one of the things within like my past is like criminology and everything. Like, there's a lot of overlap between criminality and homelessness, because the less you have to lose, so you're more likely to commit crimes. And that's why a big thing with preventing crime is handling the homeless community, not by like getting rid of them or anything, but by housing like helping them get housing, helping them get a job, helping them, because the more you have to lose, the less likely you are to commit crime. And this whole politically correct thing, I've seen it leach into that debate, saying that no, that's a problematic thing to say, because if you're homeless and you get arrested, you have everything to lose, because what little you have is everything to you, I guess, is where that debate is going. And I'm just like, we can't let that debate get to that point where we're stopping actual things that are helping because it might sound bad. Like, does that even make sense?
No,
Yeah.
I'm with you. Yeah,
Like it frustrates the crap out of me. And like a lot of this, especially with this second branch of political correctness that I'm trying to talk about, I feel like a lot of it is sort of pushing people into choosing sides even when they don't want to.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to relate this to is the Gulf of America.
Oh my God.
All right? The same thing happens on the right, even though they don't want to admit it. Changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. So now no one can talk about that region without choosing which one to call it and picking a side. It's like forcing everyone to pick a side of something. And the same thing with like
Where an issue didn't exist.
where an issue didn't exist. So it's like people, it doesn't matter if you have worked at a soup kitchen and if you volunteer in like homeless shelters, if you've done it for 50 years, if you call them homeless, you're a bigot.
Yeah.
Like, so you're choosing people like, is it unhoused? Is it homeless? Like, it's, I don't know. That's probably a huge bunch of rambling. But
no,
it's,
but I get what you're saying, because at some point I'm gonna stop talking in this episode. But the George Carlin thing was actually like, I stopped and thought about it, right? Because I'm with you, and I hadn't really considered. I mean, I know that people talk about this instead of the actual issue, but the idea that like maybe if they still called it shell shock, people would have gotten help. I think that's a very like important point. That, to be fair, in any conversation I've had about political correctness has not been, relevant. Which, for the record, I don't know, is why I try to ignore it when we're trying to talk policy.
yeah, which is why I brought up the homeless thing, because like the word homeless and the term homeless has a lot of baggage, has a lot of impact, and that's the point of it. If we take it all the way from like homeless, unhoused to like, I was joking, but like outdoors enthusiasts, like you make it
Outdoors disenthusiasts?
or involuntary outdoors enthusiasts. So you make it sound softer and softer and softer, and you're like, oh well, that's not that bad then. So why should we help them? That doesn't sound that bad.
And it also like creates distinctions between the group that you're trying to help that didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
I get it. I think that's fair.
that's the point I was trying to make in a very roundabout way. But
I got there with you. I'm a huge fan of roundabouts.
Yes.
It's a caramel joke for you right there.
Dylan is stewing over here.
Yeah, I was
just-
gonna say
I'm
you've
just-
been silent.
I'm just like thinking and processing about how I want to address this, because
It's like it's the Gulf of America, damn it.
Ooh, say it. Which one do you call it?
I call it the Gulf of America, and I was in
I just
Florida.
call it the Gulf anymore. I was like,
That's
I don't
valid,
want to. I
actually.
don't want to piss off either side. It's the Gulf.
I was in Florida the first weekend of Thanksgiving break, and I bought a new one of those like fishing shirts. And
Did it say?
It says Gulf of America down the sleeves, and it's got a big American flag on the back, and says established 2025. I thought that was
Wait,
pretty cool.
that's funny.
I'm a big weather nerd, okay, and I follow weather things a lot. And like, there's a certain apps I use, and it uses the National Weather Service maps. And it was funny because it was about a week after Trump changed it to the Gulf of America. They changed it from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America on the radar app. And a few times since,
And
it's-
on Google Maps, I think, yeah.
Google Maps, yeah, it's changed back and forth a few times. I just went in to check, and it's not called anything. So I guess enough people complained on both sides
I
that
think
they got rid of it.
I
Which,
think just the Gulf is fair.
yeah, just the Gulf. But that
What
that
was-
goes to my point. Like, why?
Oh,
Why
what
change
was
it?
funny?
Just leave it the way it, like,
Yeah.
why change the term homeless? Why change the term Gulf of Mexico? It's been that way for hundreds of years. It's like you're just creating division.
I will say the one that made me laugh.
Yes.
I mean, none of us have anything to lose if it's called Gulf of America or Gulf of Mexico. I think that's fair. But I did find it funny when, like, the Mexican president was like, it's called North Mexico now instead of North America. Did you guys see that?
Oh no, I didn't.
That was funny.
That's funny.
Or, like, yeah, anyway. Or the Twitter versus X thing, where people on the left will be like, the only thing I'm dead naming is Twitter.
Oh, that's funny.
That's funny, too, yeah. Some of it's pointless. I'll give you that. I'm not gonna die on that hill.
We should just, so that everybody's equally as upset, just really go off the wall with it. Let's just call it like the Gulf of Hong Kong.
There you go.
China would love that.
China went like,
They'll start building islands there next week.
That's funny. That was a good joke.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I mean, yeah, kind of. And listening to both of you touch on things, and like sitting here during this entire argument, or not an argument, discussion.
A brawl.
Yeah, we're actually fist fighting. You just can't see us.
There's blood everywhere.
Like, I agree with a lot of what Spencer is saying, especially in regards to this second kind of category of political correctness. And that's something that gets me, I think, a lot more worked up in general. And something that kind of also, I just think it's also interesting, too, how political correctness is not uniform. And an example that I always come to is, the R word versus idiot. And both of a long time ago, 50, 60, 70 years ago, regardless, a while back, both of those words meant the exact same thing, and they were both medical definitions to describe. They were medical definitions at the time, whenever that time was, to like describe.
As someone who went to elementary school in the 90s, it was still, that's how it was taught.
Yeah.
That word was used.
Yeah, as a way to like describe an individual with some sort of intellectual, mental, learning, disability. And at some point, the word idiot went from meaning, some scientific, health-related term to, hey, you're just being an idiot, you're being dumb, right? To basically meaning the same thing as being dumb. And what we're seeing, and nobody complains about that. And what we're seeing now is, the R word, people get very upset when that word is used, and they're like, no, we've, got to be politically correct. That's not kind, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not here to argue the merit of whether we should or shouldn't be able to use that word, but it just perplexes me that people are throwing such a big fit over this now, but they're not trying to do anything about the word idiot when that had long meant the exact same thing. Or to, say somebody's stupid is another one. Stupid was something that was very, very similar. And a lot of these words just transitioned from some sort of, medical or diagnoses or medical term to just another way of calling somebody stupid. And this is just the last one to go, but now there's a pushback on that all of a sudden.
It's all context. Like, it's just because it's not that the definition of the word itself changed or anything. It's that people started using it as a slur, sort of like we meant earlier.
But I don't think people use the R word any differently than they would use the word idiot.
I strongly disagree.
Oh.
And I also think that, it's necessary to understand that if somebody's, especially today, if somebody's using that word, they're doing it in spite of knowing everything. You know what I mean?
In spite of knowing?
In spite of knowing how the community takes it, in spite of knowing what the implications are.
So can I ask the question of, when you say I'm assuming when you say the community, you mean individuals with some sort of impairment or disability?
Or those, family of.
Yeah. And this is a general question. I don't have an answer nor an opinion, but why would they care, or do they care about that, but then not the term idiot?
Yeah, I don't know.
There are some,
but there's a lot of examples of this.
Yeah,
because I don't know, queer versus the F slur. You know what I mean? I don't know why language evolves like it does, but they both used to mean the same thing. queer was absolutely an insult, and it's not anymore.
It goes both ways.
It
Things
goes both
can
ways.
go the other way.
Like I think that's another thing that maybe doesn't get talked about enough, the lack of uniformity.
And that's fair.
Because then that's something that, like, me, and from my perspective, I can't, the two things I hate most in this world are, I'm going to say three things. The three things I hate most in this world are, like, lying hypocrites in the New York Mets. I wanted to throw New York Mets jab in there because my buddy actually just texted me.
Are they a bunch of lying hypocrites?
They're
Worse.
Yeah. And I actually, because he texted me, like, literally during this podcast, hey, what podcast are you on? So I sent him the link to it, and he's actually a big New York Mets fan, and I'm Atlanta Braves, and we're diehard enemies. So I really hope he listens to this episode and makes it this far into it so that he can hear it. But
this is me with Tottenham Hotspurs fans.
I don't watch soccer a lot, but if I do, I support Wolverhampton.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
The Wanderers. I know they're not that good.
Great. Yeah.
But
love that for you. I have nothing
you.
against them. It is unfortunate they're bottom of the league.
yeah,
Yeah. They have 2 points on 13 games or something like that.
sure. A lot of my friends from high school played soccer, so they'll send
nice.
me updates
Yeah.
periodically. But so anyway, where I was getting with that is, to me that feels very hypocritical that you have two words that both meant the same thing, and one of them is now okay, and one of them is now not. And I understand that there was a chain that idiot became an acceptable word in our vocabulary a lot sooner, and now a debate is circulating around the R word. And I can understand, again, the people's arguments, and I feel like Spencer is wanting to say something of idiots
my final
not
point is going to really address this.
is idiots not being used as a slur, and the other word is. But
I thought you were covering your ears. You were like, I'm tired of this.
No. It just said to readjust.
Oh.
Like, people that have been mean towards that community have always been mean towards that community, and like that's nothing new. But for us just to say one's unacceptable and one is acceptable, I just feel like that's very hypocritical of us as a society. To say that two things that meant the same thing, but one's okay and one's not, and we can't really say why that's the case.
Yeah. So the point I want to get to, our guest will be showing up soon. So to close this topic out, I guess. All right. So I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I did attend one of the first No Kings rallies here, because I am kind of a centrist, kind of a little bit on the liberal side.
I spoke at that rally.
You spoke at that? I probably heard you.
You probably did.
I probably did. And,
Probably didn't see me. I'm pretty short.
Oh, but I probably heard you. I saw your hand waving. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
So one of the, like, No Kings itself isn't like an organization. Like, it's kind of like Antifa, but different organizations around the country kind of like host a No Kings rally.
No Kings is an official organization.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Even though, like, so
Just like Antifa.
No. Hey, you want to
All right.
rehash that episode? No, go ahead.
I
Go
do
ahead.
not.
I think officially,
one more hour of Antifa.
they're, officially, I believe they're like a nonprofit organization,
Okay, so
or at
like,
least
so
they have a social media
So
account.
Indivisible Indiana just kind of partnered with them, I guess.
I believe so.
Okay, I thought they were just like hosting it. Anyway, one of the reasons that I stopped going to Indivisible Indiana meetings, and it's probably going to piss them off that I'm going to say this, and I don't care, is their just nonchalantness with calling Trump supporters maggots.
Ooh, I don't like that.
Openly calling them, like, there is a slur for Trump supporters. Have you heard this?
I have not.
Maggots.
Huh.
Over MAGA. Maggots, okay? I really didn't like that, and I said something to them about that, which I really disagree with, and it's a slur for Trump supporters, okay? I'm sure you do not like this term.
I've never heard of it before, but I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it.
You're not a huge fan of it, okay? The term maggot and the term Trump supporter both mean the same thing.
Ooh.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying now?
I can.
Ooh.
The R word and idiot both mean the same thing, okay?
at one point.
It's not what the word means. It's why someone would use one over the other.
That's a unfortunate word to call an individual a maggot. I did not know that existed.
I didn't either, actually. I might have
Really?
seen it, but I didn't know it was being used widespread.
Um,
At which point, admittedly, I took it as more of a joke because I thought it was just a one-off joke.
I know
It's spreading.
Interesting.
I know that we're getting close to our guest joining us, so we can keep going. I just during this entire conversation, I have wanted to just share how I personally feel about this,
Yeah.
and I will say this by saying, when we talk about political correctness, I think a lot of it is just people either white knighting like we talked about, or people just getting too into the weeds of it. And as an individual, and this comes from both my faith, my Christian faith, and it's everybody is, an equal child of God, as well as my parents raised me to believe that, one, you kill everybody with kindness, regardless of if you like them or not. And, I think I said this on an earlier episode, but my mom always said, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words can never hurt you. And so I make a personal effort to go out of my way to try and, especially for political correctness as it relates to an individual, I make an effort to accommodate that.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to this second leg of political correctness, I believe we've got to be careful because we're going to, politically correct our way into a situation that's not going to be beneficial for anybody.
I mean, someday in the future, this episode will have aged badly.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, everything
and
does.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I look forward to the day where we've solved all of these problems as a society and there's never a debate or a discussion, which I think
Okay.
will be a great place if we can ever get there.
All right. So,
But the last thing I would say is, despite my, personal belief in all of that, I have to stand for the fact that in a democratic society in which you have free speech, that unfortunately allows for people to be mean, and I would rather us work as a society to try and get there on our own than having a government try and regulate that out of us. So that's what I would say about that.
it's definitely a discussion that can continue in a part 2 at some point. But right now, our guest is here, and I would like to introduce everyone to John Michael Gauthier. He is a futurist and science fiction author. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
You just did.
All right. Do you all want to introduce yourselves
Yes,
to our
please.
guest?
Hi there. I'm Dylan. I'm
there.
the College
Hi,
Republicans
Dylan.
president here at IU. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, no problem.
Do a little sit-up straights for the height challenge people over here. Hi, I'm Anushka. I'm the college Democrats president. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
All right. So we have in the past had a little bit of a discussion about 3iATLAS during a test episode, which maybe we'll release at some point as a lost episode. Who knows? But we talked about some of the anomalous things about it. And our last episode, we were going to talk about AI and AI misinformation, and we never got around to it. So we're kind of combining those here today. So would you want to discuss a little bit of what are your current thoughts on 3iATLAS and how the media is portraying it, specifically alternative YouTube media?
Alternative YouTube media is running with a few semi-unusual, and they're evaporating, by the way, semi-unusual aspects of this thing. For example, it was outgassing nickel without iron, but those are both created at the same time in supernovae. So you expect that if you see nickel, you're going to see iron. Well, the iron has since showed up. It was just being masked somehow by this cloud of dust and gas coming off this thing. And some people are saying, well, it's got all these tails and jets and everything, but a paper just came out today that provides explanations for it. So my current thoughts is that this is a comet, a dirty ball of ice from another star system that's several billion years older than our solar system is.
Wow.
So it's literally the universe is sending us samples. We don't have to go out there. We can just sit here, and it sends stuff to us
That's
to
awesome.
study.
That's such a cool way of putting that.
Yeah, it's what it is.
That's
And
awesome.
when we can go out and sample it with spacecraft, we will see all kinds of interesting things because this is not from the solar system. This
Do
is
we have, sorry to interrupt, have any space missions been planned or whatever to send a rover to this comet at some point?
There is a plan. Now, what NASA and the European Space Agency did was they turned every asset they have in space that was capable of doing observations of this thing. They turned it all towards it, including the Mars rover. You know, there's camera sitting there on Mars looking at it. And they gleaned as much science as they possibly could from it. But their plan now is in order to intercept one of these things, well, we've missed the ones that we've caught coming through already. They're gone. But what we can do is put a spacecraft out there and station it, waiting to intercept and go on an intercept mission from space. So you don't have to launch it and build it. It's ready and there to go and catch an interstellar object and take a closer look. So in the future, and I wouldn't expect this to take 10 years, we probably will have an interceptor out there that can go look at these things.
Yeah, I was going to
That's
say,
awesome.
like,
But yeah, that's really cool.
it might be difficult to catch this one since it's already going out. But like given that we found like 3 of them at least in the last 5 years, there's going to be more options to find different ones.
We're going to see an enormous amount of them because what's turning on and becoming active now is something called the Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile. And this telescope is designed to do sky surveys. It just keeps going. It looks at the sky, you know, taking pictures all the way, you know, and then it starts over. And it allows you to build a kind of a movie of the night sky every 1.4 days, I believe. Well, that lets you see things moving because you start seeing dots moving. And that's how you detect interstellar objects and dangerous asteroids, actually, and other things, you know, transient things that happen in the Milky Way. Well, anyway, the estimate now is that the Vera Rubin Observatory, at the power that it has, will see interstellar objects almost monthly at this point from here on out.
Oh, wow.
And it'll see,
Whoa.
yeah. So we're going to see a lot of them. And you know, this is 3iATLAS, meaning the third interstellar object we've seen. And I bet you a year from now, we'll be on 40, you know, interstellar objects we've seen. So they're not rare. We just didn't have the telescopes that could see them
Oh,
until
that's
now.
interesting.
Yeah, do you think Avi Loeb's going to write papers about each and every one of them?
No, he's probably gonna move on to something else at some point.
Because he was a questioner. He thought the first one, Oumuamua, he wrote some papers about it possibly being alien too.
Yeah, Umomo is a different story though. That one actually legitimately was weird. There was no reason, you know, we still haven't figured that out. And his objection, you know, to assigning it a comet or any kind of a label was that it didn't fit anything, and it still doesn't. And the other hypotheses, the natural hypotheses, were swinging further and further out there to try to, you know, cover all the bases on what that thing was. And they started getting weird, you know, things we've never seen before in nature, hydrogen icebergs and things like this. That we've never seen that, you know, we've never seen that in nature. So his point was, well, why don't you put an alien option on the table? Because it could be, you know, could be a piece of alien trash. And he came up with a number of anomalies that, you know, weren't very easy. You know, you can't dismiss them outright. But it doesn't matter because it's gone. You know, marginally you could catch up to it, but it's not likely. It's not likely anybody will do that. But the case of 3iATLAS, it was much less so, and there was a lot of sensationalism about it. But it's I think at this point fairly explained that it's an interstellar comet.
Yeah. Did you have any comments or questions, Anushka?
I to be honest, I'm gonna let Dylan do his thing because I don't know a lot about space. I don't know how a lot of this works. I have an older brother that's really interested in all of this, and a lot of what he says tends to go over my head, and it freaks me out a little bit. I'll be honest. So I think it's really cool that we're seeing science evolve so fast that
Oh, sure.
just the jump from 3 to 40 in a year because we have better science and better technology to see. I think that's really interesting. I don't have a lot to offer, admittedly, to the conversation about what it all means and things like that.
It's happening all over science. We're getting better and better instruments, and it doesn't matter if it's medical science, detecting cancer, things like that, all the way to astrophysics.
Yeah.
We're getting better and better instruments, and it's getting even more exciting because we're making
exciting
leaps
is
and bounds.
exactly
Yeah.
how I describe the emotion. I have more of a medical background, and so that's more of what I understand.
Just
and
think
Dylan
about
likes
AI.
other.
Yeah, think about AI and protein folding.
Oh my God! Well,
Unlocking protein folding.
I'm a cybersecurity major, and so AI also I have a bit more of a knowledge in. But I want to turn it over to Dylan because he's a space nerd, and has shown in the past that he has a lot more knowledge base. So,
Do you have any more comments on 3iATLAS, Dylan?
I mean, it's, I've mentioned on this podcast previously, but my first initial love and first initial career I wanted to go into was astronomy and cosmology. I think it's just trying to move my mic so I can see the screen better. I think it is one of the coolest. One of the coolest. Holy crap, Dylan, get it together. One of the coolest fields like you can be looking into and you can be studying. And I was obviously much more knowledgeable back when that was something I was reading up on a lot. But what I'm really interested in, especially with a lot of these interstellar objects that we're now being able to see more in our solar system. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Voyager I know I say recently, not in the past couple months, but that exited the solar system,
Yes.
within the last 12 months, 18 months?
Two of them have. Actually, both
Okay.
Voyager 1 and 2, I believe, both have exited what we define as the solar system. They
Yeah.
haven't left, the Oort cloud or anything like
Yeah.
that. But they've passed what's called the heliopause, and that's where the sun's gravitational influence just basically hits a limit.
Yeah.
And you're out. You're out at that point.
Which,
and they're still doing measurements. They're doing measurements of the magnetism changes between inside the solar system and outside it in interstellar space and all that. Those are still functioning and taking, doing good science.
which I think is just the coolest thing ever. The fact that we were able to build something that is, again, exited the solar system, and now we have the ability where, like you said, we're going to be able to go from seeing a couple to seeing, 40, 50 of these interstellar objects. And I forget what agency did it, but that landed the little rover probe on a asteroid within the last couple years, and you'll have to help me fill in the gaps there, because that I believe
that's
that's
sample return mission.
Yeah, the sample return mission.
Yeah, there was actually several of them. There was NASA did one called OSIRIS-REx. And
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
There's a major development in that arena. OSIRIS-REx found all of the building blocks, including the sugar glucose,
Really?
like what's in a soda bottle, in that asteroid, meaning that all of the building blocks of RNA
What?
are there. And we think that, if that asteroid would have, or meteorite from it would have hit here, that could have deposited all of the nutrients needed for RNA. Well, we know how that happens now, because if you percolate all of those nutrients through volcanic glasses in water, out comes random RNA strands. And if you get an organized one, you are at the beginnings of life on Earth. And they were just saying, well, we need to find all the building blocks in these asteroids. Let's see if they're there. And it turns out they are, and more. There's salt there. There's glucose. It's astounding science. Just came out yesterday.
That was yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Literally yesterday.
What can I search up to look more into this? Because that's the
There's
coolest
a
thing
NASA
I've
press
ever heard.
release.
Okay,
There's a
gotcha.
NASA press release, and just search RNA and Bennu, BENNU, which
Okay.
is the name of the asteroid, and that'll bring you to where you need to go.
That is the cool. My jaw dropped. because I remember like AP biology in high school, like learning about origins of life and all of that. I mean, that's
It's all of them,
very
though.
cool.
It's all of them. It's the amino acids, too.
No way.
They're there. Yeah, they're in the
What?
asteroid.
In an asteroid?
All 5 amino, yeah, they're amino acids. Phosphate, which is the backbone for RNA. It was all there. Everything you need to make an RNA molecule is sitting on that asteroid.
Whoa,
So now we
how
know.
did I hear about
now
this?
now
Oh
we
my
know
God.
how it got here. How the building blocks got here, and it also means that it's all over the solar system, and very likely the building blocks of life are everywhere in the universe, and that there's probably microbial life all over out there.
That is so cool.
Speaking of
Oh
that,
my God.
have they found anything else about? Oh, I wasn't pointing toward my mic. Have they found out anything else about the rock on Mars that looked like it might have had moss growing on it? Is that what I'm
yeah, I
thinking
heard
of?
about
Okay. There's been a number of things happening with that. Mars shows all kinds of weird hints of looking alive. It has seasonal methane blooms, so the Mars rovers will detect methane part in one season. It's actually seasonal, and then it stops detecting it. Almost like there's a bloom going on, a methanogenic organism bloom going on underground, and that methane is seeping out. There is also more recently they found very, very life related formation in rock with the Mars rover that could say fossil of a microbe. So there's just been so many hints, and Venus also hints, believe it or not. The upper cloud decks of Venus show a gas called phosphine, which is related to biology, and nobody's come up with a mechanism other than microbes for that to happen. But Venus obviously is a hell planet, but the very upper part of its clouds isn't. It's actually the most it's the most Earth-like environment in the solar system off Earth, where you get the same. If you cut your spacesuit in this cloud layer, it won't kill you.
Whoa, okay.
As long as you got the oxygen, being replenished
On
the
Venus.
rip in the space, because it's the air pressure is the same.
Wow.
And this is Venus, and the temperature is the same.
That's only like way up there, though.
The temperature's
Way up there, 40 miles. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's actually a plan floating around NASA circles for, if you really wanted to, you could suspend a balloon colony with people on it
Oh my God.
in the atmosphere of Venus in this zone. And it would actually be easier to do that than build a Martian colony in some respects.
Really? We had very briefly at the beginning of this episode talked about our reading choices, and Dylan had mentioned that he was more into historical fiction as far as the fiction realm went. And I had mentioned that I'm a huge fan of like dystopians and science fictions, and so you're in front of my eyes, like making childhood me so happy, just because this is like a possibility. And again, from someone who does not know the science about this at all, I feel like you're just telling me magic exists is what's happening, and this is like the coolest conversation.
Well, it in a way, but it's not magic. We know how it
But
works.
it's not magic,
And,
which is even
but
better, I think.
It is definitely what you could call it magical.
Yeah.
In the sense that that we're alive to see this right now.
Yeah.
It's a very, very exciting period of human history to be seeing this unfold, because in hundreds of years ago, people, when they were born and then they died, everything was exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you put it like that, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And now it changes every day, and especially in science.
Yeah.
It just keeps speeding up.
Oh my God. I saw a joke to lighten the mood on that existential crisis real quick. I saw a joke that one day Dylan and I are 20. And so one day we'll have to explain to our kids that we existed before AI, like as fully conscious humans, in the way, it's accelerating so fast. And I feel like a lot of it has been, I don't know, we're in politics, and so it's been very controversial and scary, and worried about regulation, and all that can come later. But just the excitement of this.
That really makes me sad, because I was born when the internet didn't exist.
Yeah, same with, like, I wasn't born before it existed, but I was born before it was everywhere. Like, I was born in 1990, so I remember a world when it was very isolated and not everybody had it. So
Yeah.
I was born in 1974.
And you look fantastic for it.
Well,
Seriously, I would not have guessed that. Yeah, so interesting. Thank you so much for the insight. I'll throw it back over to Spencer. Yeah.
Oh, it looks like Dylan has a
Or
question.
just
Okay.
I remembered having read something, and so I Googled it so that I could better say or describe what it was. But I was reading about how that exoplanet Tylos they had discovered this silicon monoxide gas on it, and how that was correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the first time they had seen that gas. Forget the solar system, but on any exoplanet in general. I was wondering what your thoughts were on that, and what could maybe be producing that or causing that.
Well, if it's silicon, I would imagine great heat.
Yeah.
So it's probably what we would call a hot Jupiter.
Okay.
And there you can get gaseous silicon compounds that end up in the atmosphere. As a matter of fact, it's to the point in some of them that we think that they can actually rain rock, like as a water cycle, or they can rain metal. Basically raining glass in some cases. So there is that chemistry, but it requires great heat because you have to keep that stuff melted. But we also have other exoplanets that are showing one that might be showing it. There's not a lot of supporting evidence for this yet, but it shows a gas that is heavily linked to life. That might mean that this exoplanet has microbial life, but the detection there was not strong, so it's sort of up in the air.
Is that the Proxima 1b whatever?
No, that one. Well, that one is a different story. That's that one we have trouble, even though that's the closest exoplanet to us. It's hard to study for various reasons because it doesn't transit its star. So all we can see is the gravitational wobble of the star, and that doesn't really tell you much. It just tells you that there's a planet there, but it's difficult to observe. So what you really need is for that planet to go in front of its star, and that means that the starlight has to go through the atmosphere of that exoplanet, and that lets you get a spectrum of the components of the atmosphere, and that's what you need. So without that transit, though, it's very difficult to see them directly. But when you do see them transit, you actually see the light of the star go like this.
Dip
as
a little
it passes.
bit. Yeah.
Dips a little bit. Yep.
I guess one other, maybe before we talk a little bit more on AI or whatever, if that's something we wanted to, but one of the, I guess, other really cool things that I know that they keep releasing stuff on all the time, but when they quote unquote photograph the first black hole, but then now all of the supplementary data that is coming in behind that, and now with James Webb fully out there, completely operational, having been able to take in pictures and data for a hot minute now. I feel like I have, this is me with zero real education, but I feel like I've seen a lot of stuff, especially about red dwarfs and Neptune stars. I feel like I've just been seeing a lot more about and white dwarfs and stuff like that in the news, or in the science news, is they're now being able to detect more of these, and seeing how these red dwarfs and neutron stars, even being billions of years past when they would have collapsed in on themselves, still being quote unquote active and consuming and shredding mass and matter and everything, I thought was just really interesting. If you had any thoughts on that.
It means that their planets can survive the red giant phase. And for example, our star system, the sun will do this.
Yeah.
It'll swell into a red giant in the far future, and then it'll reduce back to a white dwarf.
Red giant, not red dwarf. I call myself. Yeah.
Yeah, red
Sorry.
giant. Well, they're the same temperature, basically, well, more or less, just size. But the thing is that our question is what planets are going to survive, and it looks like Earth, maybe.
Oh,
Venus,
see, I thought
Mercury,
Earth was a goner. I thought it was going to
expand
out
fence.
to.
On the fence, it depends on how much it expands. But Jupiter and outward are probably going to still be there. And the weird thing about that is that as the red giant phase hits, the habitable zone of the solar system moves out. So that's how you end up with currently icy moons like Europa and Enceladus as open ocean moons, and you could actually have life arise there in the far future in this star system.
When it goes from a red giant and it condenses back down to a white dwarf, would its shrinking in size, because I know that like as it shrinks in size, the gravity is going to get like stronger, correct?
Yeah, because it's a lot denser.
Yeah. Will that
It won't get stronger. It's just it'll have a different profile because it's a lot denser.
will that affect, I guess, will that affect the orbits of something like Jupiter or Saturn, or when the sun goes from a red giant and then condenses back into a white dwarf, will they
Yeah, it will.
will the planets be pulled in closer to
Well,
that
there are a
white
couple
dwarf?
of things. I don't think anybody's actually projected this because that's hard math actually. But if you start removing planets from the solar system, you start upsetting the apple cart.
Yeah.
Right. So with Venus and Mercury gone, and Earth gone, Mars maybe gone, it's going to be up to Jupiter and Saturn as to what happens and how they migrate. But they probably will migrate either inward or outward. As a result of the upheaval of this. So I would expect, I don't know if they would have a mechanism to go closer. We would have to look at white dwarf systems and try and reconstruct what they looked like when they were, normal stars and try to see what happened with the migration. But planetary migration is very, very touchy, and there are only a few specialists that can really work out what might happen. And remember, 4 billion years now from now, or 4.5 billion years from now, that's a long time away.
Yeah.
To be projecting forward. So
Interesting. Okay. It was just something I was thinking about on the spot, is the, size or the volume of the sun is going to drastically increase and then drastically decrease, how that would affect the
it may not affect it as much as you think. I think the real question would be, well, you don't have the gravitational sources of the inner planets anymore. What's that do? But at the same time, that resonance between Saturn and Jupiter right now, that's basically controlling where their orbits are, is pretty strong. So they might be able to hold it together in a form pretty close to what they are, because they're more affecting each other than they are anything else.
Okay.
And the sun doesn't even care if its planets are there; it just wobbles a little bit because of them. But when you start getting rid of gravity sources, that's where you get instabilities.
Interesting. Okay. Cool.
All
This
right.
is I know Spencer. I'm gonna throw it back to him.
Okay, do you have anything else to say before we move on to like AI? and how
That went
would
over my
relate to
head
this?
so quickly. And I'm so glad you had that conversation. I could not tell you anything that just happened.
All right, so where I was going to, kind of like how this ties into AI and 3iATLAS is, I'm sure you're probably very well aware of this. Just searching 3iATLAS on YouTube, it's very hard to find actual information. I'm just going to, right now, the first video is 3iATLAS reveals a massive new mystery, and it's this AI-generated picture of a spaceship. And this AI-enhanced picture of Avi Loeb screaming next to what looks like the ship from Independence Day. There's a New York Post thing with another AI-enhanced thing of Avi Loeb with his mouth open, talking about U.S. Pentagon cover-ups. And I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Here's a fake CNN article with what looks like a fetus in space saying that is 3iATLAS. You see where I'm going.
Welcome to the world of AI.
Everything is, there's this psychic lady who's got AI stuff. It's like I'm scrolling and scrolling and I cannot find a single actual video. It's all AI slop.
Yep.
So how much do you think that relates to how the world is looking at not just this, but space in general moving forward?
It scares me because, it's fake information. It's often wrong. Mm-hmm. And that people get these ideas in their head that never were real, and so I worry about that. However, judging by my audience, most of them aren't buying it. They're like, this is AI slop. So humans are still capable of detecting it, but in 5 years, it's not going to be the case. So
It's getting really good.
yeah, it's going to get even better and even better.
I saw something about AI, like literally today. This got brought up in the Democratic exec board group chat. As far as AI slop goes, that we were all a little bit just like horrified. So there is a quote unquote, in extreme air quotes, news organization that has popped up here in Bloomington called the Bloomington Star. I believe this just popped up, which is 100% AI generated news. All the authors that are linked are fake. They don't exist. There's no sources. There's not people behind it. There's no writers or editors or any of it, at least publicly. And it has somewhere deep in the, fine print of the website says that it's AI and that they don't, that they try to make it accurate, whatever. But like, given all the misinformation that's already happening, I know it's one thing where if I can safely call the 3iATLAS thing more on the outskirts of, social presence, that I obviously, especially when there's less information out there, you want it to be accurate information. But the idea that someone...
yes, and now, mind you, that is a nonpartisan thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need accurate information
Absolutely.
to run on. And with these AI sites doing that, you can't guarantee that's accurate.
Right.
And they don't, there's no human to check it.
Exactly. The idea that, I don't know, it really caught me off guard because it was so local. It wasn't an article in some other publication. It was Bloomington specific, this town specific. And I don't know, just the idea of somebody looking for weather updates about a snowstorm. We just had a snowstorm in the Midwest. I mean, you know this, I believe.
Oh yeah, I'm there's 5 inches out there.
Okay, yeah, so you had it worse. But like the idea of somebody looking for weather updates, like take away the misinformation of politics.
And think about tornadoes.
Right, exactly.
I've seen plenty of like very convincing fake AI of tornadoes.
Like, what is the difference?
Oh God, I've too. Isn't it amazing? Or a meteorite falls. I mean, there's so much fake. And
right,
it's
that just like it really scared me.
A sad thing is do all of you know what the difference between a tornado warning and a tornado emergency?
Yeah.
Like a tornado emergency is when there's like confirmed proof that a dangerous tornado was on the ground.
Right there.
Yeah.
This last tornado season, I believe there were multiple tornado emergencies that were falsely issued because somebody faked a tornado video
Oh my God.
and sent it to the National Weather Service, and they triggered a tornado emergency. So that's
God forbid it goes the other way.
That's going to lead to people taking tornado emergencies less seriously, which was
And
why they were developed to begin with, because people weren't
God.
taking the warning seriously.
Yeah, and it's when you live in a tornado-prone area like Tornado Alley here, I mean, St. Louis right there got hit, just last year.
We had some pretty bad ones last season, too.
Yeah, Bloomington got hit by, was it EF3?
I don't remember, but it was, I mean, it was bad.
Yeah, it's terrible, and it's and when you start adding in fake stuff, it's like, and the other thing is that if you start getting too many false alarms, people think cry wolf and they don't go to cover, So it's very disturbing all around.
And I think the nonpartisan aspect of it is really interesting to me. So I mentioned I'm a cybersecurity major. It's not my specialty at all, but you do see things from a different perspective than you do in the political side. And just the way that... Sorry, lost my train of thought. It was a class that talked about, the way in which evolving technology, especially in the informatics, IT world, is affecting people. And I know that when we say AI, most people think of generative AI, which is fair enough. But something that we talked about in the class, and I took this like 2 years ago and it still sticks with me, is the way AI is being used in the justice system. Where, because... Like, if you think of, like, drug courts, for example, these courts are getting absolutely swamped, which is a different political debate about why that's happening and how to fix it. But this is a fact that these courts are getting swamped. And so that the way that some judges, I don't know how proliferated this is, but the way that I know for a fact some judges are dealing with this is that they're using algorithms to determine sentencing.
I wonder how legal that is, though. If you think about it, I mean, it sounds like something you could challenge on an
I'd
appeal.
imagine, but also that would involve knowing that that's how it's being done.
Yeah. Oh,
Disclosure,
well.
right?
Yeah.
It's come up quite a few times, different jurisdictions. It's a
Yeah.
mess.
And so just the idea of that with the way that these algorithms are built, where if you use racist data, you're going to get racist results under the
Sure.
guise of technology is not biased. So things
Yeah.
like that is something that I've been aware of. And what I was going to bring this back to is that the partisanship aspect is really interesting to me because I'm beginning to see a little bit of a divide in what side, because of environmental concerns, what side is more okay with AI and which is not, which is scary to me because of what I was going to say, which is regulation, which is that one, the byproduct of, I think I can say this and everyone in the room will agree with it, our Congress is very old. And that's, you can have whatever thoughts you want about that, but they don't know technology. You can see
They
that
don't know
whenever,
technology.
you can see that whenever some big tech CEO like testifies in Congress, they don't know what they're talking about. And I fear that we've already passed the critical moment of regulating AI to the point where now we have the deep fake issues, we have the tornado, this news, all of this, where I agree with you that it's not inherently partisan yet, and I don't know that we're going to get to it before it becomes partisan.
And
Well, I don't think it'll get solved before it becomes
Right.
partisan. I don't think it'll. I think we're either past it or very close to
I
the
agree,
cusp
I
of
agree.
what we could have done something.
I agree.
and
And you're right. The younger people will. Everybody under 50 knows. But over 50, less.
Yeah. And I fear that's where all of Congress is.
Well, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's touching a lot of different areas too. Just not even looking at astronomy and weather and everything. Like, just look at all the misinformation with like historical or
Oh my God,
archaeological things. All these like AI generated.
It is.
The scans
Yeah.
of the pyramids and stuff.
It's actually worse than that in that arena, because the problem there is that how they train the AIs is, popularly used AIs like LLMs and things like that. They train them on the internet. Well, the internet is full of ancient alien conspiracy theories.
Oh,
That AI sees that, and it's like it doesn't know bad information from good information. It just knows its input. So it incorporates things like the ancient alien stuff and all that into the pyramids, but not the archaeological stuff. I think the companies developing commercial AI will find ways to weed that out, because they have tons of people sitting there asking their AIs questions so that they can adjust things, well, the famous racism that comes out of AI sometimes. They have to somebody go in there and train that thing, no, don't pay attention to this, you just go by this, and things like that. They have to do that. They don't have a choice, or else the AI will continue to give out and regurgitate bad information. But it's particularly bad in archaeology because there's just so much of the conspiracy theory type stuff out there that's just patently false, especially about the Egyptian pyramids. Those things. We just literally found a laundry list on a papyrus in Giza that's it's one of the foreman's orders for materials, from the supplier of stone blocks and all this, and everything. And yet people say, well, humans couldn't have made that. Well, here's the guy's shopping list for rocks, stones. But it's just so prevalent, and that's why there's so much of it, and it's very, very bad in that arena.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the news reporters that'll be looking at a crop circle and saying there's no way humans could have made that while being in a helicopter looking down at it, speaking on a satellite phone. So
Yep.
That's funny.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is, I often tell people, they come at me on YouTube or Spotify or something like that, whatever platform, they say, well, humans couldn't have built the pyramids, and I'm like, no, but I can. I was like, yes, we can, but I can also destroy them. Give me a couple of good contractors, some dozers and cranes, and I'll replace all three of those pyramids with 3 gigantic Burj Khalifa buildings within a year. And I will outdo the Egyptians with a Sears Tower. um, yeah.
do you have anything else to say about any of that, Dylan?
No, I think those are all, great points, and I have no clue what we're going to do about AI or anything in the future, and how that's going to, I guess, shape how we consume information, where we get our information from, or, what. I don't know.
You might see companies start self-regulating, because I'm starting to notice with what I do with YouTube, I have to actually tell them when I upload a video that it's not AI altered.
Interesting.
And the thing is, a lot of those AI channels lie to it and said, no, it's not. But YouTube will not put you in the algorithm if you click that, because they don't want to promote so much AI slop. They know the problem is there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's not illegal to make an AI video, of course. It's just that where the regulation will come in is where YouTube finds ways to detect it and just drops it out of the algorithm so it doesn't get promoted to people. And you see, the promotion is a problem, because if you write down an AI channel that you see on YouTube, and then, and it's getting views and all that, and then if you look at its performance, it goes down because the algorithm is like, this isn't good, and it doesn't show it to anybody. And as a result, those AI channels have very low subscriberships, of like 12, 15 people, if those are even real people, because again, there's also bots and all that stuff, and fake subscribers, all sorts of things like that. So people are still catching it. It's just that when AI gets so good that you can't tell, that's when it gets scary. And we're 5 years from that, within that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, it does kind of touch the free speech debate, because I've seen people arguing that already, but it's like, does it still count as free speech if it's not you saying it, but it's like, does it count as free speech for me to program an AI to have this opinion and then make 1,000 videos by midnight?
Well, you want to get messy.
Yeah, I feel like,
imagine 50 years from now, where you have artificial general intelligence and it's sapient, meaning it's basically alive, running for president.
Oh gosh.
there's already a country with a
it knows to tell people exactly what they want to hear.
oh yeah, but kind of like a deep cut to one of our previous episodes. Like, we've been doing this forever. This is episode 4. As you can tell, we're still not very professional. But I really feel like AI is going to be to the First Amendment what the AR-15 is to the Second Amendment.
Ooh. What an analogy.
Because it's just a wild card. Like, it blurs lines, but yeah.
Blurs lines, yeah, it does.
I'm fact checking.
Yeah.
Albania is the country with an AI minister. Yeah, it's really funny. I say funny because I have to, as opposed to terrifying and what are we doing. I'm just fact checking real quick. Diella is the AI minister, tasked with overseeing public procurement and fighting corruption.
Oh boy.
So surely nothing could go wrong. I know that it definitely wasn't other ministers who may or may not be corrupt that chose the programming for this avatar and have oversight. I don't know anything about the Albanian government. Obviously there's a lot of potential contradictions there.
Yeah, I since this is a political show, I'll step into the politics just slightly. You guys may not remember this, but back in the day, George W. Bush went to Albania, where he was actually very popular because one of his policies favored him, and he was like wildly popular, which is the only place he was wildly popular. Well, anyway, he goes over there and he's interacting with the crowds and all that, and his watch disappears. Somebody ripped off the president's watch. Yeah.
That's funny. Wow.
They never found it?
Apparently, they never addressed it. But it's there in one picture and it was missing in another. And this was really, you could have photoshopped it out back then. This was like 2000, whatever. But yeah, people don't think that's what happened. They think that his watch got nicked by somebody.
That's crazy.
Given it was George W. Bush, it was probably an expensive gold watch.
And he probably deserved it. That's interesting. Well, yeah.
I shall. Yeah.
Yeah, you can refrain from that one. Don't worry. I'll say that one.
Yes, I'll refrain from that one, but let's just say I wasn't happy. About certain things, certain wars.
Yeah, well.
Besides that.
Yeah.
But I will full disclose, guys. I'm an independent. I don't belong to a political party.
Hey, you fit right in on this podcast. We try to keep it available to all.
I'm in the middle that you got y'all fight for. I'm the voter in the middle that y'all fight for.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle too. I make everybody angry.
I'm glad there's still some of y'all left. My goodness.
Well, I'm capable of voting for either side. I just look at the person.
Yeah, there you go.
What,
I
what
think
are
that's
your
how it should be.
ideas? Yeah, but at the same time, I am not a social conservative or a liberal or anything like that. I'm just for reasonable ideas that treats everybody right and advances things. That's all I care about.
Would you want to talk about your book Supermind that deals a lot with AI?
Yeah, Supermind was. I made a gigantic, huge warning in 2017 that this was all going to happen, and it's called Supermind. It's a fictional story of AI and AI interaction and how unexpected things can come from it that we can't just have no way of predicting. And Supermind also features one glaring mistake. My timeline for when all this would happen was 50 years.
Oh,
Turned out it was 8 years.
wow.
So, happening now. And other than that, I've managed to predict generally correctly amid a fictional story.
All right. So if anybody wants to read that, it's available on Amazon.
It is on Amazon, yes, and also Barnes and Noble, I believe. So
Hey, we'll link it in our description when we put the video on YouTube.
But I went specifically into that to warn of what's happening right now. That, and what scares me is that what if it, we're dealing right now with AI, we're dealing with individual characters. Somebody saying, well, I'm going to make some money with an AI channel, as long as I can get views. So I'll make AdSense money on YouTube from it. Well, what happens when governments take that over and the AI becomes propaganda? And you can't tell propaganda from reality. I mean, people will always free think it, and say, you effectively ultimately have things like, the Nazi film machine, things like that, propaganda films, but of a order of magnitude much greater. So that another danger of AI is how governments could, rogue governments could misuse that and try to subvert other governments with, content. Another problem is, what does this do with weaponry? Do we really need an artificially intelligent hydrogen bomb that can launch itself? Questions like that come up. This can and will get very sticky with a lot of questions about ethics and safety, and we need to be addressing it. And as you say, Congress is a little bit too far behind the curve on this, and so is much of the world. And where is the UN? Where are they?
Doesn't exist.
Yep.
Ouch. That one was personal. No, I'm with you though. I mean, where's the UN in a lot of these, huh?
Yeah.
They
As
should be leading the
someone who
charge.
wants to do foreign service work, yeah.
Well, that used to be historically their job, they were, we saw them all the time back in the day. They were always weighing in. Now they're not. I don't know why. I don't know why this happened. I'm not the only person to ask this. I looked the other week ago and the Pope was asking it. So,
Hey, so you're in good company.
yeah, exactly. So, but I that does bother me that we don't seem to have a global authority on a problem of AI, which is very clearly global, but individual countries can't deal with this except within their own sphere. Whereas you need a global entity that can say, hey guys, worldwide, we need to slow down. And that also affects issues like climate change, so you really need that authority there somewhere to at least, stand and talk about it. And we don't seem to have that with AI.
Yeah, it's kind of disturbing. Do either of you have any additional questions?
I mean, no, not really.
Everybody looks scared.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the most comforting thought.
Yeah.
I guess I'm curious with the book that you mentioned.
Mhm.
What was the reception of that like? Was it something that people were saying like, "Oh, that's never like we're not going to see that in our lifetime," or what? Or was it something that felt true to form?
Well, most of the reviews were, this book will scare the hell out of you. Was the reaction? Maybe,
Nice.
Yeah. Because they were like, I see. When I wrote it, for its time. Remember, it's almost 10 years old now. For its time, I was integrating all of the actual computer science that we knew at the time. So I made it. I made it a little bit more technical than most science fiction writers would have done.
Gotcha.
And as a result, it it ended up making it more realistic, I guess, in a certain way. Um, and the other was that the book does not end like people think it will. I managed to pull off a surprise ending that looked well, I'll just put it this way: it looks just very similar to another very old, very scary science fiction story.
Ooh, that's a good tease right there.
War of the Worlds? No, it wouldn't be War of the Worlds.
I'll give you a hint. It was written by a female, and it is very early, very early.
Frankenstein?
Yep.
Oh.
Boom! I know my stuff. Come on now.
3 seconds away from making a Dylan name a woman joke, but you did well.
Yeah. Mary Shelley.
Mary Shelley, and she wrote it on a bet.
Yep.
Believe it or not, and it remains
not up to date with
probably
classics.
probably my favorite. Well, the thing is about Frankenstein is that is not only the first science fiction story, really, it's also the first gothic horror story.
I knew that actually on both the fronts. I'm not good with classics.
Yeah, she was way ahead of her time because she was talking about the Arctic. We hadn't even explored the Arctic yet.
Oh, really?
Yet, other than the Inuit. Nobody knew about it, but she knew, about it and set part of it there. And she also knew about, things like very cutting edge science at the time where they were applying electrodes to like frog legs and getting, severed frog legs to do this. Well, she did that with a monster. And that was unbelievably early. You have to remember, this was like 1815.
Yeah. Wow.
Unbelievably early.
I forget about the timeline, I think.
I didn't realize it was that old. I was thinking maybe like late 1800s.
Yeah, me too.
No, it's early. It's right, just around the time after, I believe, just after the Napoleonic Wars ended.
Oh wow!
And
wow,
that's older than I thought.
Yeah, and her husband, the poet Percy Shelley, decided with another very famous poet, Lord Byron, I think. They decided a vacation in Switzerland, and they were there, and it was stormy one night, and it was kind of a scary night. So they all bet each other over dinner who could write the best scary story. And Mary Shelley obviously won that, and Lord Byron's like, we got to get this published. And she actually, I believe, initially had to have it published under a male pseudonym, but eventually that was dropped. It was the Times, and then she just went with Mary Shelley. But yeah, she was the first real science fiction author, and to this day, one of the greatest.
Yeah.
And she only ever wrote that one. She wrote other stuff, but it was in a different, sort of grain. It was never, spooky horror sci-fi stuff ever again. I guess she thought she could not do it.
Yeah, she couldn't outdo herself.
And what's crazy, I'm pulled it up a little bit. 1818.
Yeah.
And published anonymously January 1st, 1818. She was 20.
Yeah, she was young.
Oh,
Yeah.
She was young. Yeah, and
Dylan,
she
we're
1818.
I know, right? We're doing nothing with our lives.
We're doing this.
We're doing.
Yeah, and see, the Napoleonic Wars ended in 1815, 3 years before at the Battle of Waterloo, and Napoleon was sent into exile. And then all of a sudden, the European continent was open for English tourists again. It was safe, and that's what they were doing. They wanted to go see Switzerland, and they rented a sort of a mansion there, basically, and that's how that came about. And it really was, as far as classics go, that's my favorite.
The idea of renting a mansion at 20. What are we doing?
I rented an under construction cabin in the Smokies once.
Nice. That sounds terrifying.
I don't even think I could have rented a car at 20.
Yeah, I was like 25 when I rented that. It was, the things we've learned today.
No, genuinely.
Help me out. What is the name of the sci-fi book? I think it came out in the 50s or the 60s. And Man, Childhood's End.
Mm.
That was the book I was thinking of.
Well,
Great book. Wanted to shout it out.
I would actually shout out Arthur C. Clarke and
Yeah.
anything he wrote, and the movies. 2001 and 2010.
Was
because it's
Ringworld
hard
Arthur
science
C.
fiction.
Clarke?
Okay, Ringworld was Larry Niven, and Larry Niven is still alive.
Okay.
I interviewed him on Event Horizon, and Larry's still cooking. He's still writing. He's getting up there in age.
Because that's a series I've been
his
wanting
80s.
to read because it seems interesting.
You know what? It's fun even to this day. Ringworld was great both conceptually and that type of story is. He definitely Larry's very very good at what he did.
It's basically
But he's
about
still around and still writing. So
yeah, it's basically about like a partially completed abandoned Dyson sphere, right?
Ooh.
it's actually a ring. So instead of it being a sphere all encompassing the star, it's just a ring around it. So you
Okay.
imagine the Earth's orbit is a solid ring, and inside that ring it's populated. And
It's
he
like
goes
a-
to great lengths to explain it. Yeah,
It's
how
like
it
enough
holds
real estate to make like 1,000,000 Earths.
It's beyond. Yeah, it's unbelievably ridiculous. But the weird thing about it is that when you get that material that thin, all you need is the material of Earth, not in a sphere form, but in a ring form to pull that off. Because once you spread out Earth's materials in that
Ooh.
area, you've got enough in Earth. But there are gravitational problems and thruster problems and things like that to hold it in place. So it's unlikely anybody ever did it. But we did have a scare in 2016 with a star called KSC 8462852, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
that is burned into my brain to this day. That
Tabby
star's
star.
telephone number. Yeah, I have the phone number of a star burned in my brain for what you probably saw. Then one of the interpretations of that was that it might have been a Niven ring. That's changed dramatically since, but we still don't know what's going on there though. It's not a solid object. It's
What was that?
So in 2016, and this actually is why I entered YouTube, believe it or not, was a video on this star because there was so much bad information out there. People that were sensationalizing and saying it's an alien megastructure and all this. So I went in and I explained the science of it, and I was thinking, well, I'll get maybe a couple hundred views or something, maybe. I ended up with 500,000 subscribers.
Jeez.
But the thing, and yeah, it turned into my, even bigger career than writing novels was, or is. And it was about this star that was dimming. So you remember we were talking about the
Yeah.
dip.
Yeah.
This went right in
Oh,
front of its
yeah.
star, and it actually dimmed its star by 22% at the deepest. And a researcher named Jason Wright suggested, a scientist, he's at I hope he forgives me if I did get this wrong, but I think University of Pennsylvania, and or the Pennsylvania State University, however it said. And Dr. Wright said, this looks exactly like what you would expect from somebody building megastructures in their star system, and we need to look and see if those are solid. Because if they block all of the light of the star, or if there's some transmission through it, because if it's solid, that's probably aliens doing something massive like this, building a Dyson sphere or something. Well, and there are different interpretations of a ring and all that, because you can get different geometries from what's basically a shadow on a star. Well, anyway, he just threw it out there, hey, we should check this. And for about a year, that was the best candidate for an alien technosignature we ever had. However, somebody got around to actually seeing if there were transmission of light through it and if it absorbed at different wavelengths, because you can actually tell the size of a particle of dust by what light gets past it and what doesn't, what it absorbs, or what's too big of a wave to get past it. And it turns out it's dust of some sort. The problem is it's dead cold, no infrared, it's not warm, and doesn't appear to be periodic. It's almost like there's this big dust cloud floating past the star in space in between us and it, but we've never seen that before anywhere else. and we don't know what would cause that. So that's still a mystery, but it's pretty low on the rung as far as candidate for an alien megastructure at this point. There's a better one. Trust me, that there's a better one out there.
Interesting. What's the better one?
It's way weirder. Uh, it's called Jabilsky star,
Okay.
and this star is when it was first found was first studied by a Polish Australian astronomer named Antoni Jabilsky. And don't ask me to spell that because I was told by a Polish person this is how you should pronounce this, And he noticed that the star had no iron, very low iron, which is peculiar. That's
Yeah.
strange because older stars should have some iron in them. I mean, look at the sun. There's iron asteroids falling into the thing all the time, and it's from a supernova that produced a bunch of iron, which actually goes back to the 3iATLAS thing. Would have had very little or none. It's been found now but it still has very little for a star. We don't know why that is. Well, about 5 years ago, some Russian researchers thought, well, let's do a full spectrum of this thing. And they started seeing plutonium, einsteinium, uranium, transuranic elements that are all artificial. Plutonium can't exist other than a few atoms at a time in nature. And anything above it on the periodic table decays so fast that you have to make it in a particle accelerator, and it decays so fast it's gone. So if you see it in a star, it has to be artificial. The star has it, and we can't figure out how. It's one of two things. Either one of three things. One, the detection could be wrong, but it doesn't appear that it was. Number two, it could relate to a hypothesized area of the periodic table called the island of stability, but it's unclear how a star or anything could get up into that. This is like 20 atoms above, what we've synthesized so far. Could be that, but that means that is like Nobel Prize in nuclear physics if you can figure out how a star would do that and why other stars don't. And your last option is aliens are seeding it, as first suggested in 1964 by Carl Sagan and Joseph Shklovsky. They said if you ever see plutonium in a star, it's got to be aliens, and we've seen plutonium in a star. Aliens are using it as a nuclear waste dump, perhaps.
Wow.
Or they're saying we have advanced physics, and you dark forest evil overlord alien species, we have advanced physics, lots of bombs, don't come here. It's a warning signpost or something like that. But that's the best one right now.
Interesting. I'm going to go down so many rabbit holes with this guy.
That's really fascinating to
yeah.
think of that as just a giant red flag to deter others.
I mean, is there I understand that we say plutonium and einsteinium and everything, above there is artificial, has to be artificially made. Is it not possible that the sun could be so extreme that it's like recreating those particle accelerator conditions, but at a sustainable level, so that those elements can be maintained or can be created at a speed in which they are decaying, so it appears that the level's not changing?
Well, it could be, but the problem is you would think you would see other stars doing it.
Yeah.
And we don't. But there is some questions about that. You could say, well, is there some kind of nuclear hanky-panky that we don't know about yet that could be occurring with the star? And absolutely, for sure, could be. But again, that's Nobel Prize material because that's something that we know nothing about right now in nuclear physics. And that could, understanding that could unlock energy sources, nuclear energy sources that are, a lot cleaner than uranium is, but we don't know. It's just nobody really knows how to interpret the star. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of work being done on it, but there are people trying to bring it back onto the table. I know that Dr. David Kipping, associate professor of astronomy at Columbia University, has a YouTube channel called Cool Worlds. He's been drawing attention to it from a professional basis. I've been drawing attention to it from, my science presentery, sci-fi author perspective to try to get it back on the radar of some researchers. Because, research takes money and you got to get some grant money and all that to do these things. And you're only going to do that if you're aware of it. So we've been trying to raise awareness that the star kind of looks like it might be a technosignature. But what are those aliens doing if it is?
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole with this.
All right, so we are approaching our limit of how long we can use this room today. Are there any closing arguments, anybody, or any closing questions, comments?
I haven't even got to ask him about his thoughts on, the Fermi's paradox or everything, since we've been kind of going down this techno-signature, alien rabbit hole, but...
You've got several videos about that, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Go to his YouTube channel.
I'm aware of, at this point, 125 potential solutions to the Fermi paradox.
Okay.
There's a lot of them. And I've made videos on probably 70% of them at this point.
I will make sure to go check those out then. I just genuinely, this piques my interest more than just about anything else there is. So thank you for... And Then I talk to somebody like you who's way more intelligent and knows more stuff than I do in this space. And so I kind of feel a little out of my league or whatever, but I really appreciate you.
You shouldn't. I'm here to answer questions and talk to people.
Giving me the opportunity to nerd out and relive my childhood a little bit. This is some of the most just interesting stuff ever.
We both said that on this. That's so wholesome.
Yeah.
That we both had that moment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Imagine being lucky enough to be living it.
I know. That's the other crazy thing too is
you literally make your living off it.
Quick, Dylan, leave politics.
Oh God.
Yeah.
It'd be such an easy life, wouldn't it?
Well, the thing is that my point of view of it is that I wouldn't be able to do politics because you have to be hyper informed, and I would actually not be able to be that hyper informed in it to be able to ever do any sort of political commentary. And what is my opinion worth? I'm just one guy. That's where I'm uneducated. You know what I mean? But I just happened to have this interest, and I was able to turn the hobby into the career. So
that's awesome.
That is awesome.
But if you do a career change, Dylan, let me just tell you, it's a lot easier at 20 than it is at 35. I can say that from experience.
Noted.
Hey, I pulled it off at 40.
Oh boy.
There you go.
No, I appreciate you saying that because the 20 thing has a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Because I was like, great, now I got to do it now. I got to figure it out.
I should have written a book by now.
And if you haven't done it by 21, you're cooked.
Ah! All right, I'm dropping out.
No. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you.
If you ever want to be a guest
Nice to
again
meet you
and we're
guys.
talking about a different science topic,
Please,
we'd love to have you.
No, just send me an email, and like I said, my work is done for the day. I'm on chill time. So
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'll see you later.
Yep. Thanks. See you
All
guys.
right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. This has been the Right, Left, Up, Down podcast. Thank you all for being here today, and we will meet again next time to discuss more about the political and social hellscape in which we live. All right, there we go. That's how
he does it? That's funny.
It's the weird and wonderful universe in which we live.
Gotcha.
It sounds like his thing. But anyway, next Wednesday is our conclusion of the season.
Wow.
Which should be good.
Yeah, I think
Because I didn't want to do one on finals week. I figured that would be.
Yeah, that'd be
What's finals week?
You need to stop.